Hi, Vieira with Stock Market Live.tv. Today we have here a complementary investment lesson. We are going to discuss the subject of the value and the importance, the extraordinary and remarkable value behind the concept of nigger. And this concept, which is often referred to or mentioned by my teammate on social media channel, it is often disregarded or confused by ignorance. But that is common, and I'm going here to explain it since it is one of the most important concepts in the investment industry. And it is part of our course Emotional Analysis. As you are aware, emotional analysis is one of the most important components in successful investment. Before I start, we are going to refer obviously to the fact that today you have here a meltdown in shares of US Steel, trading near $23. And you have to refer to our calls ahead of earnings, downgrading to strong sell, and referring to US Steel as a case of corruption or fraud. In other words, we already knew about earnings, corruption, fraud, and I'm referring to the fact that I warned you here live on the day that the American investment firm Cohen Research upgraded shares of this company to strong buy outperform, giving it a price target $60. This is the clear example of a nigger, all right? So the concept of nigger, for those that they are ignorant, it comes back, or it goes back, a long time ago, to Nietzsche. And if you don't know who Nietzsche is, well, certainly I'm not going here to teach you about it. I'm going to define and to give examples of niggers, okay? And the value of, or the importance, the remarkable, I repeat, value of exploiting this concept in the financial markets. Here you have a title of the article, very explicit. Vieira hedge fund downgrades US Steel to strong sell, naming corruption. Corruption implies automatically that the share price is going to crash, to collapse, to melt down. Okay, so if you had a short position in US Steel ahead of earnings and you followed my instructions, for example, if you covered short positions as of yesterday, after hours at $27, you are a clear example of a nigger. You don't know what you are doing since, as I informed everyone, plenty of downside and time to sell short US Steel. All right? So you have here the truth always can be seen, as I've been saying thousands of times during the past 30 years, live on the table. Continuing the example of niggers, so what a nigger is not a black individual. I had the privilege to work with many black people in the past and still today, and I'm not racist, quite the opposite. Those that they call themselves, the clever people, intelligent, they are precisely included in the class of niggers. And we are going here to demonstrate, although I already gave you an example, we are going here to define the concept of niggers. In the United States, this country, you have this person who said one day, I grabbed them by the pussy. Well, this person, who is entitled to say this, any person, I grabbed them by the pussy, is today the President of the United States. Well, it is not certainly his fault to be the President of the United States. Someone elected him as the President of the United States. So these persons that they voted in this individual to be the President of the United States after he made this statement, I grabbed them by the pussy, they are automatically included in the class niggers. Why is this so important? It is so important because there is a huge force behind this class, this new species, niggers. New in the sense, I repeat, that was discussed in detail by this genius in the past, Friedrich Nietzsche. Having said this, for example, I'm going to discuss here many situations where niggers can be used precisely to influence the price of stock, as Cohen Research did, precisely telling Americans, my niggers, you have here a great gift in US Steel. Shares they were trading at $40. By now, they are worth $60. The niggers, all of them, millions, Trump Americans, they jumped in and they bought US Steel precisely on the day that we were downgrading to strong sell. And not only that, as you have the video, explain this in detail, live with the tape, when on the day that shares they were trading near $38, on the web, on Vimeo, on YouTube. Now, having said this, if you have a Trump American or Trump himself or any other, for example, burping on TV or on social media, you have automatically millions of views, all right? So the niggers, they are automatically tuned to whatever it is, except what really matters. So the niggers, they believe, they invest in the markets, or they live their lives according to, the niggers' beliefs. And this is a very powerful force that can be used precisely by assuming contrarian positions, and by doing so, you automatically will become not only a millionaire, but instead a billionaire, as I proved in the past 30 years. Having said this, we are going to discuss here, while I watch here the markets, because the markets are open and I have to follow up the markets. Having said this, we are going to continue discussing here some examples. Today you have also on the web, one of the forecasts I told you, you can easily make $1 million. The niggers, they were selling shares of Sears Holdings at a price of $5.50, capitulating these American niggers, and I told you about it, we are up again to strong buy. Shares of Sears Holdings, they rallied 300%, almost to $14. Well, at $14, I appeared there and I said, it is time to dump on Americans, niggers, and now you go short the stock. In just 72 hours, as of today, you had Sears Holdings down almost 40%, $14 to $10.25. Again, you make millions of dollars without any effort whatsoever, because I told you that was going to be the case, and you have this live. So, very simple. Again, you understand or comprehend, or at least start comprehending the concept of niggers while you watch here the tape in US Steel trading at $23.39. If you want to maximize your return on investment in the markets, you have to do, or to learn what to do and to comprehend the game, okay? So, like I said before, if you yesterday closed your short position with a profit in US Steel at $27, you are nevertheless an nigger, because there was plenty of room for shares to go down, as proven, right? But we are going to continue discussing here the value, the extraordinary value, I repeat, the concept of niggers. Goldman Sachs, price target, Tesla, 2010, $21. Goldman Sachs, price target, American Express, 2009, $11. Conviction sell list. American Express, as of today, is a stock trading at $80. Strong buy rating here, given, and precisely against these niggers. So, Wall Street knows about the existence of these species since the very beginning, as we know, and what they do is, unlike us, we teach investors, but in the case of Wall Street, because they have other objectives, namely share price and other stuff, which I'm not going to discuss here, they tell or deceive investors. You want more examples? By the way, Tesla Motors today, $311. And this, every single year, Goldman Sachs sell rating, all right? Having said this, Ginchenos sell, best-selling short idea in the markets. Tesla Motors, ahead of the best rally in Tesla ever, to epic historical new highs. Mark Faber, other American, Tesla is going down to zero. Tesla, today, it is worth more than General Motors or Ford. Again, the example of niggers, all right? So these people, what they do is precisely, or what they've been doing since the very beginning, is to deceive people. Again, other example that I discussed here in the service. The case of Bill Ackman, not only with the case of Herbalife, which is not the, I would say, the best example, but the case of Valiant. Valiant, the next Berkshire Hathaway. You have millions of Americans buying shares of Valiant. What did happen? Meltdown. Not a crash, a meltdown, all right? Meltdown down to single digits. Other example of the concept and the importance of niggers. And niggers is not the crowd, it's a different matter, all right? Completely different matter, because the concept of crowd, there is a huge difference between the crowd and niggers. Niggers are by far more dangerous and the power force compared to the crowd. But if you want to know more, you have the course Emotional Trading. Having said this, I was going to refer to the case of Intuitive Surgical, a stock that I repeated here thousands of times for years. Intuitive Surgical as one of the best or lifetime investment opportunities in the markets. Stock goes up every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. So today you have in fact new all-time highs in shares of Intuitive Surgical, $835, upgraded here to strong buy for the first time at $98. In fact, that does not correspond to reality, because we upgraded in fact shares of Intuitive Surgical well before. But okay, that was like the case of Tesla, we upgraded to strong buy at a price of $38, 36 to 42. The case of Intuitive Surgical, or the case of Chipotle, for example, at $56, 58, which I still remember when, for example, in the case of Chipotle, we only then downgraded to strong sell, saying that shares were going to crash at a price of $720. And the shares, they crashed. And again, you had the example of niggers, which we refer to precisely on articles live on the blog of the company, when Jim Cramer said Chipotle remains and it is a great lifetime investment opportunity, as the case of GoPro. He said the same with regards when share price was trending at $65 with price targets $100 higher, okay, above $100. Chipotle crashed. The case of GoPro, precisely the same, or the case of Fitbit, okay. So these niggers, they are tuned precisely on what really does not matter, okay? They are doing precisely the opposite. And the reason you have today the case of US Steel is that our priority for these earnings, and companies that I'm going to report many earnings. Today I could be talking about Chipotle as an example, that you had my call free complimentary ahead of earnings, and yesterday shares, they jumped above $500. Or I could be talking about also wine resorts that I made a call. So I made all the earnings calls, including today the case of Twitter that jumped a bit, all right? So I made or Caterpillar, but I made all these calls. But for us, one of the most important calls this earnings season, it was precisely the case of US Steel. Why the case of US Steel and the case of AK Steel? Because you have these forecasts, you had these, or the case of Sears Holdings, you all had this forecast, and I said, this is guaranteed, okay? As the case of Intuitive Surgical. And we are, obviously, our priorities are precisely those that they are guaranteed, okay? Others, we might have positions, in some cases they might be minor, okay? As it was the case with the Caterpillar, that was more complex than, for example, the case of US Steel. So this is very important because in terms of position sizing, and you don't have to be everywhere where you have to be, and the position sizing has to be precisely in those situations where you are more certain, or the probability for something to happen according to what you know that is going to happen, that you have to be there, okay? So for me it was not so important, for example, what was going to happen in Caterpillar or what was going to happen in the case of even wine resorts or the case of Twitter. It was by far more important what was going to happen in the case of US Steel, okay? Because everyone was focused here, the niggers, everyone was precisely. And yesterday, before I terminate or I continue, we have to go back to yesterday my call in, or my past year's calls, for the past 10 years in Netflix, where I offered you other great investment lesson, in fact, in modern history, how to invest in the markets utilizing the example of Netflix. And those that they appear on CNBC, and they have been appearing on CNBC, talking about stock market crashes and Netflix, you know, you have to see the video, okay? So you see the video and you are going to understand what I'm referring to. So those that they appear there, and this includes these fake Nobel laureates, economists, that they've been talking about crashes and stocks to be very expensive, blah, 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 blah. They don't have any credibility whatsoever. They might be white. I have green eyes, all my family has blue eyes, excluding myself, I have green eyes. But I'm not racist. It's precisely the opposite. Today, not today, but since the very beginning, since beginning of times, there is this species, very important, the niggers, and you have to understand these species, how they operate, how they work, and their philosophies, their principles. Because if you understand them, you have the key to invest in the markets and to be consistently profitable, which is precisely the holy grail of investing in the markets. One of the masters of precisely, or one of the masters in that the Americans they know about utilizing this principle is precisely Warren Buffett. So many people they say Warren Buffett is present when there is blood on Wall Street, or when and so he's investing or buying stocks when there is blood, precisely utilizing these principles, which I discussed, in fact, or I've been talking about for many or several decades, and stepping in the most difficult moments, precisely making those calls in 2009 when Goldman Sachs was downgrading American Express almost at single digits, or making, for example, these calls in US Steel, where they had the strong buy ratings ahead of the financial crisis, the collapse, also in American International Group, in Bear Stearns, and so on. So these are the niggers, my friends. These are the niggers that they tell you that they know everything about the markets, that stock prices cannot be predicted, that you need their help in order to profit from the markets, when in fact you don't need the help of anyone. For some reason God gave you a brain precisely to utilize it. And these are the people, the niggers, that they have to sell you an idea. And this idea is that you need them to make a profit in the markets, or you need them to be successful in something, and then they are going to charge you unbelievable fees. And the end result is always the same. You lose money and they need more niggers. Other people, instead of the concept of niggers, they might use suckers, whatever you want to call it. But I repeat, the right concept and terminology, since we utilize a different terminology compared to the rest of the industry, and I'm very happy for it because we invented this terminology that you have in financial markets. For example, our concept of bull market and bear market is not what you see in the books. That is for the stupid nigger Trump Americans, okay? So these people that they are told, if you appear before the TV, and this, by the way, obviously I could continue here for 1 hour, 2 hours, or all the entire day. These people that today they have power, at least I would see some of them as clowns, seated and with a title, and that is in fact the reality in most cases, or a puppet, in other words. What happens is that these people influence others by utilizing today, for example, social media. So if you appear before TV and utilize this term, I grab them by the pussy, I will say, if I have here a sheet of paper, if I give you a question, a questionnaire, and which is the probability for one to win the US elections, after saying this, obviously, or it is logical that, someone with a brain is going to answer not 100%, but, is going to lose the US elections. That is perfectly normal and the logical answer, okay? But because we are talking about common beliefs, all right, and common beliefs, I already explained how it works in stock market, and you have to go back to that lesson in Netflix. It does not work like that, okay? Because again, I could use, you have here a different questionnaire, and the question is a different one, and it is rather simple, which is, are there more intelligent or stupid or ignorant people in the world? And the answer right now, it is logical: stupid people, ignorance, all right? So these stupid people, ignorance, has by far a more weight compared to the previous answer. So it changes the reality as it is, and therefore your common beliefs. Do you understand the reasoning? All right. Because this is important, because these things, then they enter in algorithms. So when you have these investment firms, including ourselves, coding algorithms, all these variables, all this stuff, it is included in algorithms, okay? It's the reason why you have investment houses and blah, blah, including ourselves, hiring doctors, for example, people, experts in neuroscience, many things, all right? Or many different branches of science, which is very important in the financial markets. Because financial markets is not about selling potatoes, my friends, it's about money and how in fact the world operates, okay? It's not about the share price, it's about how the world operates. So you have a job if some operators or market participants want that you want a job, because if tomorrow some market participants, they decide that the company you are working for is going bankrupt, and that's it, okay? So there is a bad ride, and your company is going bankrupt, and you are out of your job. So things are done like this. This is the reality. And by the way, some people, they also ask whether earnings are known ahead of earnings. Obviously, they are known ahead of earnings. Only, again, the niggers, Trump Americans, they are not aware of earnings ahead of earnings, okay? So, for example, like the case of US Steel, if you didn't know about earnings in US Steel ahead of earnings, you are a nigger, okay? But that is your problem, it's your concern, it is not mine, all right? So, do you understand? A nigger does not have any chance. A nigger is always on the other side. But the importance is that to maintain the nigger, to feed up the nigger, it is very important that you have, the more niggers you have, like you had, for example, recently buying shares of Sears Holdings for our own benefit and our customers to dump them on them, the more niggers you have, the better it is, all right? So higher it goes, better it is. Often if you want to sell short the stock, if today US Steel was trading at $50, that will be impossible. But if it was trading at $50 for some reason, sometimes there are weird things in the markets. Sometimes there are very weird things. or strange things, it will be even better, okay? Because the end result, it is always the same. It does not matter where it was going to be this, earnings or next earnings. The end result is the same. That I guarantee to you. So the concept of niggers, it works like this. So when people, they reply on social media, nigger, oh, he's calling me a nigger. These are ignorant people, and what you have to do, because on social media and in the world, most people are ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about, including these stock analysts. They've been bearish, they're talking about, and again, the case of Netflix is a remarkable example. I'm using US Steel today because US Steel, the company reported earnings, you had all the information ahead of earnings. I could use the case of Sears Holdings, I could use the case of Apple or any other, Herbalife, I don't know, Insys Pharmaceuticals, Acadia Pharmaceuticals, Freeport McMoran, there is a list of 500 companies that I could mention here that also they will be terrific examples. I think that is for you today the fact that you have US Steel, because you learn precisely when you are seeing things happen, okay? So if you hand US Steel at $40, 41 precisely on that day that we're downgrading, saying, fools, dump, I was saying dump on Americans, dump on American idiots. You have questions? Google it, see the video, dump on American idiots. Why I'm telling dump on American idiots? It's not, I don't have anything against Americans, my friends. 1% they are very bright. 1%. 99, the niggers, they are wrong. So what Wall Street does, again I repeat, because this is rather important, they have been doing since the very beginning, to exploit and to sell an idea to 99%. So 99% they lose money in the markets, 1% they make money in the markets and in their lives. So when then you have, and if you have questions or doubts, just you have the statistics online. You have 1% very rich, and the rest, they are very poor. They are like this, and they are very happy. They believe in America, the values and all this stuff, all right? But I'm not referring to America or the United States as something negative. Quite on the contrary, each country has their own advantage and disadvantage. I'm referring to facts, okay? And the facts can be seen live on the tape, as well as statistics. The fact, although statistics is a bit different and more subjective, since they can be manipulated, and often, as you know, politicians, they manipulate the numbers, okay? For example, again, I'm going to, as I speak, I remember cases, all right? And these cases, they are very well known. So you have now, a person talking, speaking, the speech, inauguration speech, and he has like, 5,000 people or so, And the next day, you hear on the news and newspapers, we had 50 million Americans in our inauguration speech. 10 times, 100 times more than Obama, And the photos, they say, they show 100 people or whatever there compared to Obama, okay? And they say, no, my nigger, we had 5 million. But the photos, they don't show that. But this is the country where you have Area 51 and UFOs, and all the aliens, they live there. Okay, this is the only country in the world you can see UFO, because I never seen one, but it's like the case of Tesla. Tesla, they say, is everywhere, selling everywhere. But I've seen, as of today, maybe 5 or 7. I don't know. But they say that it's everywhere in all countries. People driving, millions of cars. I don't know. They say, okay? They say. Obviously, we use this to take Tesla and to make the forecast, 36 all the way up to $311.50 as I speak real time here. You don't believe me? I'm going to show you. Right? So just have to push this. Here you have Tesla 311 and a half, okay? For the information. You understand how it works? All right. Research in Motion, that today is a company, is a Canadian, poor Canadians, violent BlackBerry. Once they also said, research in motion. And by the way, now that we're talking about Tesla and research in motion, and the concept of niggers, I'm going to exemplify precisely with this great example, since this is an investment lesson, how it works at the stock market. One of the masters utilizing this principle of niggers, Elon Musk. Okay, for example, Elon Musk, my niggers, don't worry, within a couple of years, you are going to be in Mars. $20 or $200 trips to Mars, they are going to be possible. And the niggers, they believe. Okay? So the importance of creating a belief, utilizing niggers. And the powerful force that today it is behind the value or the valuation of this American company, Tesla, which, for example, it is not the case with Volkswagen or BMW or Mercedes and the rest of the industry or the rest of the world. This is only possible in the US. In other countries, this is not possible. Why? Because you don't have this concept of niggers working in full force. In the US, you have them. Okay? So this is very important because in other countries this does not exist. All right? So this is why we talk about the importance that we are present in the markets in the United States more than in other countries. Because again, the existence of this very powerful force. So if you want to create a company, you are likely to be more successful in the United States compared to other countries. Not all of them, but generally speaking. Why? Because you have there the 99%, not 99 niggers, percent, but you have had a powerful force for you to convince, to sell your idea. But these niggers that then they follow up you and millions of them, and if you burp on TV or on social media, you put there something, completely ridiculous and stupid without any value whatsoever, you have millions of views and all of them laughing, next day they are killing someone in a school, boom, boom, and the president saying, more guns, more guns, more guns. I mean, this is the reality. So, niggers, you understand? The value, the principle of the powerful force, you have to understand this very powerful force, because if you don't understand, friends, you are not doing anything in the financial markets, okay? So, this is very important. I've been teaching this for decades. So, the reason why I make all these calls, 100% accuracy, predict stock price, is related to the understanding of what the markets want to do. And also you have to comprehend the game behind, these niggers, okay? The concept. And therefore you have, as of today, other great investment lessons that no one else is willing to talk about, because they don't know about this stuff, my friends. What really matters in the market, they don't know, they don't talk about. And what they are discussing today is whether, Twitter is the bottom, whatever. Or Twitter, how many subscribers they have, or views, or new subscribers, as it will be important. It's completely useless. But today you have on Seeking Alpha hundreds of articles. No one is talking about, for example, this Cohen research in the US that just scammed investors. No one is talking about this. Do you think that the US or in the US you are going to find articles talking about this? On the contrary, you are going to see articles saying, forget about US Steel, the other steel companies, buy, because this was... So they have to continue selling an idea, The importance of finding more niggers. We need niggers to buy something, to sell an idea too. All right? And tomorrow, for example, the Tesla price, if it collapses, or if tomorrow or ahead of earnings, you are going to see Elon Musk again there. Okay? He's always there. And after earnings announcement, then making some promise, all right? Making something that obviously cannot do it right now, but at least saying, be tuned, my nigger. We need you. You understand how it works? So, for example, this principle took bankrupt Tesla short seller. Gene Shanos, these Mark Febers and all these scammers, for example, the case of Gene Kramer, before or ahead of the usual rally in Tesla, he said, buy the car, don't buy the stock. But then when Tesla got to $285, he said, now you can buy, now you can buy. You understand? Now you can, now buy. You understand how it works? My friends, this is the concept, and I've been working on this for decades, okay? So we are experts in this matter, in these principles. Some of them, they call them psychology. It's not psychology, this is the concept of niggers, a very important concept that you have in algorithms, that they work, you know, mathematically. Obviously, then you have mathematics that works behind all these matters, okay? And the mathematics are the most important, all right? So I leave you here with the share price and the poor investors, the Americans, the niggers, in that they invested or bought shares of US Steel. There was a time to invest in US Steel when I told you to do so. But then, well, you know, so did you learn the lesson? Because many people, they, unfortunately, what happens that they need to lose money in the markets, and in the end, in fact, substantial amount to the point of they don't come back, and only after they lose money in the markets, a substantial amount, they come up and they say, I need help. I need, they you know, certainly they or suddenly they come up and they say, fuck, I might need help, I don't know how I'm going to do today. So you didn't think about this? So a successful investor plans for the worst, not for the best. So ahead of earnings, these niggers, they were planning for the best. The best, it was, you know, the $60, the $40, the $38, you know, the whatever they consider that it was. But they didn't plan for $23, okay? So you understand? They don't plan, and since they don't plan, you have it happen. We make it happen, and all of them, poof, kaput. You know, the same situation happened to Tesla short sellers. They were selling short on Goldman Sachs downgrades, all this matter. And then one day Tesla, you know, continues rallying, moving higher. Epic rally and epic achievement, in fact, one of the best case studies in markets history since they exist. And they kaput. Boop, boop. Okay? So, thank you and good luck. Bye.